Welcome to Seniors on the Move. I'm Karen McKenzie, and we are so lucky to have Mike Festa with us. You're going to wait till you hear about him. He's a pretty amazing person. As State Director for AARP, and you all know what that is, right? Mike Festa leads the development and delivery of AARP's community programs, advocacy and information for its more than 750,000 members. So we're in every state, of course.
Yeah, there's 38 million around the country, but just in Massachusetts.
This is just Massachusetts.
750,000.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He served in Governor Deval Patrick's cabinet as Secretary of Elder Affairs from 2007 to 2009, and previously in the Massachusetts House of Representatives from, I'm going to say, 99 to 2007. Wow. As state representative, he spearheaded the Equal Choice for Senior and Disabled Persons law, and led successful efforts to increase state and federal funding for home care, long-term care, which is so important, and elder protective services. Mike was also president and CEO of the Carroll Center for the Blind. Yep. Mike, this is amazing. And that's in Newton, Massachusetts, and that was from 2010 to 2012. He began his career as an assistant district attorney in Middlesex County and had a long-standing law practice in the hometown of Melrose. My gosh. Yeah. He also served in Melrose government for 12 years as an alderman at large and school committeeman. Mm-hmm. It's kind of about different.
No, those are old days. Those are the ancient days.
The ancient days.
The 70s and the 90s, and they called us aldermen and school committeemen. Now it's city council, and member of the school committee.
Well, we just wanted the latest information on everything.
We're going to talk about
everything.
50 plus folks, and we're going to talk about the stuff we do at AARP to try to support the community.
Good for you.
Right?
Yes. Social Security, what do you have to tell us about that?
Well,
people are a little concerned about that.
So let's start with understanding that Social Security, for a lot of people, is the primary income in retirement, which is very scary.
It is.
In Massachusetts, which is a pretty wealthy state, somewhere around 40 to 45% of people on Social Security, it's 90% of their income. So, you talk about pensions, they're going by the way of the dodo bird. You're talking about, 401ks. Hopefully you work for an employer that you can save. You put away some money with an IRA. But generally speaking, Social Security has been really the saving grace for a lot of folks. And of course, you're paying into it, Social Security taxes. If you're, if you have your own self-employed business, you're paying double. So people have contributed, but the challenge, and right now, I want to make it clear, the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund is not an issue today. But in about 10 years, it's going to be a real challenge. They're saying that, according to the analysis, we could lose as much as 20% of your monthly check. They could only pay out basically 80% of what you're entitled to if they don't make changes to the law that will strengthen the financial security of Social Security. Now, let me tell you the reason why I'm bringing it up today. Because AARP every year talks about Social Security when we meet with the Congress. We're always reminding the House and Senate members of the critical importance of Social Security, as I've just mentioned to people. But at the same time, we're being frankly very practical. The dysfunction in Washington, where they barely can remember or agree to what day it is, they're being asked to take seriously this problem with long-term solvency of Social Security. And at the moment, it is not being discussed. It is certainly not being taken seriously, even though any member of Congress would certainly acknowledge that many of their constituents rely on Social Security. So what we're trying to do at AARP is we start with the understanding it's a very vital program for financial security. We also understand that in the near term, it's going to be very hard to expect Congress to act, and probably through the 2024 election. So what we're doing now and what we're going to do for the next several years is we're going to focus on education and outreach. We're going to be doing programs in community We're going to have volunteers deliver that program most of the time. And it's going to be to explain what Social Security is. Because a lot of children of our generation and people who are not yet on Social Security, a lot of them really don't know what Social Security is all about. And we feel it's important for the long run to ensure that people are around to fight for changes in the law to protect the solvency of Social Security. We want to be sure to educate people now to give them a sense of what the program is, how the ins and outs of how to get on Social Security, when to take it, but also to get people ready to engage in the future in advocacy, where our job will be our members and people, you don't have to be a member of AARP obviously, but anyone who's concerned about Social Security will be willing to pick up the phone, send an email, do something to advocate for Congress to solve this problem.
Okay.
And that's the way we're sort of laying the foundation for doing this.
Education.
It's education now. It's
Educating our
not
seniors.
advocacy. It's let's be sure people know what Social Security is, how to get it, and for the younger people who are not yet on it, especially, to come to appreciate how important it's going to be for their retirement. And, because a lot of younger people don't even believe Social Security is going to be around for them. And that's scary.
That is scary.
That's very scary.
Especially
So
if
that's
they're paying
why
into it, you know.
Well, they do pay into it.
Sure.
And you can only imagine if you're relying on that for 90% of your income. And, I don't have to tell you, look at the cost of living. Forget about inflation. Generally, just generally, the cost of housing, transportation, you go right down the list. Food, right? So
terrible.
any of the, and by the way, I'm going to throw it out another statistic, which I want the folks to keep in mind. There was a study done, they do it every year actually, it's an economic study on how seniors are doing in terms of their ability to deal with basic expenses. And right now in Massachusetts, in 2023, 6 out of 10 seniors are economically insecure, which is defined as the amount of their expenses is less than what they're actually bringing in for income from all sources. So people are living hand to mouth in a lot of cases.
Yes.
And it's a real struggle. It's very scary. So the idea that in a wealthy state like ours that, 6 out of 10 people are, barely making ends meet. And we always talk about this in the context of, say, the cost of prescription drugs. Right? I mean, you get the wrong diagnosis, you're dealing with some kind of a long-term medical condition, and every time you go to the pharmacist, you cringe, you dread.
It's true.
You know how important it is to have that life-saving medicine in many cases, but the cost is so prohibitive. So that's another thing AARP spent a lot of time last year advocating for Medicare to negotiate prices, to reduce the cost of insulin. It's just now the law has it at 35.
How big a part did you pay?
Can I tell you something? AARP was the #1 lobby organization in the Congress in the last session when we finally got that law to pass. And I'm very, Congressman McGovern, the whole congressional delegation, Senators Warren and Markey, they were all really very effective in ensuring ultimately that it got passed, because unfortunately we are a nonpartisan organization, but it turned out eventually it became only a partisan bill, and we were really worried about that because a lot of people all over the country, doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're struggling to pay medical bills, you're struggling to pay prescriptions, and what this law did, which is most important to remember, is that for the first time since Medicare coverage of prescriptions, which is Part D, since that law was created many years ago, for the first time, the government gets to negotiate the price of prescription drugs with these big pharmaceutical companies. And they did not like it when we were campaigning.
They didn't.
And they're still fighting us in court. They won't take the vote of the Congress lying down. They want to keep fighting this fight. And you know what? AARP is going to stay on top of this. We're not going to allow any backsliding, because again, the name of the game here is to acknowledge that senior citizens, people generally over 50, medication becomes more and more important to stay healthy. And if you can't afford the drugs, it doesn't matter how good they are. And that's the worry that we have. So we're going to stay on that as an issue as well.
Well, thank you for that information.
Sure.
Now, what about a
Fitness. Let's talk about fitness. Come
Oh,
on.
all right. Oh,
Come on.
good.
You've been
I was going to
chomping
say
at the bit.
caregiving, but we can talk about that after
We can get to that.
Okay. So tell me
Yeah.
about these.
So
fitness-
here's the thing. We know that, good health is something that's very precious, and we all striving to have good health. And most of the time, you'd rather have good health than money, actually. So how do you stay healthy? Well, and you were telling me off camera about all the fun stuff you do with the Zumba and oh my God. AARP is a strong believer in promoting quality of life through things like fitness parks. Now pickleball's the big craze, so we're big into that. We promote that, right?
Yes.
But not too far from here, in the great city of Worcester, second largest city in New England, we, AARP, donated over $150,000 to build a fitness park right near the senior center over in Worcester. And let me tell you something, I was there for the ribbon cutting, and it's an unbelievable thing. I mean, it's got all of the bells and whistles. It gets people comfortable with just kind of doing their own pace of exercise.
Sure.
So it's a fitness park, and we've been, every single state has at least one fitness park that's been paid for by AARP. We have a contract with the equipment company, and there's local installers obviously in different states. But this is, and by the way, it wasn't in Westboro, it was in Worcester, and it wasn't anywhere else because we decided, as we were working, we've been doing a lot more work in Worcester County and Metro West in terms of our programs, and we thought this would be a good place to put the park, and frankly, to remind people that we're not just Boston. Because, a lot of, our office is in Boston, but I'm one of those people that is happy to get out of the, office, drive out to Westboro, drive out to Pittsfield, and anywhere in between, because frankly, our members are all over the state, and we want to show up, right? That's part of our mission, is to be supportive. So when it comes to fitness, I want to just tweak this a little bit.
Good.
And I'll tell you why.
Important, yes.
Because one of the things that just came out was the Surgeon General's report on isolation, people who are living in isolation.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Right.
Very important.
And it's as unhealthy as a half a pack of cigarettes a day.
Isn't that amazing?
Because people who are, and I just want to make this comment. We fight hard to keep people at home as long as possible. We don't want them to go to a nursing home if they don't have to go to a nursing home. We want them to get their care and support in the home. However, there's a dirty little secret going on. How many people who are living at home longer are living at home in isolation? They're lonely. They're not part of the community. The only ones they see maybe are the Meals on Wheels volunteer.
Sure.
And we need to spend more time bringing people out of their homes, if not literally, at least virtually, to ensure that they are staying connected to the community. And that is part of a healthy lifestyle. So when we talk about supporting healthy lifestyle, it's not just fitness, it's acknowledging that we need to bring the community closer to people. And how we can do that at AARP is we are doing a lot of self-help, things like health security, brain health. We do a program on brain health. You can watch it from home if you're comfortable going online. We do that. We do Home Fit to explain to people how they can tweak their home to make it safer. A little bit of maintenance or get handyman to come in to help you out. We're doing a lot of work in financial security, such as how to save for retirement, how to prepare for living longer because there's a financial component to that.
You're everywhere.
Right. Well, but
really
we're not. We want to be more everywhere, if I could put it that way. One of the things as state director that I'm really pushing for, and the staff and the volunteers are delivering, we have a lot of volunteers that are in community. For example, the tax aid program. We've done, I think last year we did 22,000 free tax returns in a lot of sites all over the state. But all of those returns are done by volunteers.
Yes.
AARP
I've
volunteers,
had it done.
right? Okay. And
Very competent.
these are people who are trained by AARP. They learn how to do the IRS. Obviously, all the tax returns are now filed online. So we take it very seriously. But when it comes to other kinds of lifestyle programs and fitness, whatever, we are doing, for example, in Worcester, we have Walk with a Doc. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
I haven't
at
heard.
St. Vincent's, we're doing we have
Sounds
a
wonderful.
doctor who anybody can sign up and just show up at St. Vincent's at a certain time. By the way, anything we talk about, if you want to know more about it, I'm looking at you, but I know somewhere out there's a camera. Go on our website, aarp.org/MA for Massachusetts. It gives anything and everything that we're doing. So if I've covered a subject area, you want to know more about what we're doing in community, you can go on the website. And, so I can tell you, for example, that we have a lot of volunteers that are doing in-person now more, because, we're past the pandemic for the most part. And we're bringing programs. And, we work with senior centers, but not just senior centers. We're in libraries. We're in community places, restaurants, whatever. Food is good. So, or a glass of beer is good too. So we try to make fun with purpose and do different kinds of events. But if you're wondering what's happening in your area, like for example, this Walk with the Doc in Worcester, not too far, it's an opportunity to walk with a doctor around, get your exercise. It's a walking program, but have a conversation with the doctor about your questions about your health. And it's really like a Pied Piper. It's a medical Pied Piper talking, and we have a wonderful series of doctors that have worked with us, that are based at St. Vincent's. And this is a program that they've been doing around the country, and we thought that was a great idea. We're going to try to do it in other hospitals around the state, but right now it happens to be.
Is it a one-on-one, or is it a group?
No,
of
it's a
people?
group. It's a group.
That
I'm
walks
telling
with
you,
the
it's like a
doctor?
Pied Piper.
Yeah.
You're just walking in a group of folks, and you're kind of going in and out with a conversation, and so that's one other thing we're doing that I think people might find interesting.
Wonderful. What about tax credits for
Well,
caregivers?
okay, so we're going to go into that.
Lots of caregivers out there.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Right now, the last statistics we have are in Massachusetts. There are over 800,000 people who are doing some level of caregiving for a loved one, a friend, family member. And the thing is that we talk about this in two ways. Number one, if we're talking to political folks who fund programs, we say, keep in mind this volunteer work that's being done, which many times people are doing it out of love, right? They're not expecting anything, but they're doing it for their mother, they're doing it for their sisters, they're doing it for maybe a neighbor, a friend. By keeping people at home longer, that's less impact on the long-term care system, which is much more costly. So that's the first thing we say. Keep people at home longer, help them have caregiver support, then you are minimizing the impact on the healthcare system. But the other thing we say, which is the caregiver tax credit point, is we want the government to acknowledge that there ought to be some financial support for caregivers in the form of a tax credit. And what we have pending in the legislature right now is a bill that's been filed in both the House and the Senate that would say that if you are out of pocket, and by the way, the average caregiver out of pocket spends $7,000 for home care, for equipment, for you name it, to help people out. We're asking the government to say, give them a caregiver tax credit, which is not a tax deduction, it's an actual amount of money that they give you,
Okay.
up to $1,500. And it's like every other Department of Revenue, you got to file, a form that explains what your expenses were. And if there are 3 people in the family that are helping out mom, then the maximum is still only $1,500. But if you're splitting those costs, everybody gets hopefully a piece of the caregiver tax credit. So that's something we've been advocating for in the legislature. And I do want to say, I know we're in Westboro. Kate Donahue, dear friend of mine, state rep. Kate has been a strong supporter of the bill. So we appreciate that very much. And we're hopeful. I mean, we've been fighting for this now for 2 sessions. So it takes a while for the legislature to come around. But they're also doing other things. There's a tax package currently, and while we're filming this, they haven't still settled the budget. But part of the tax relief plan that they've got includes a dependent care tax credit. It's not what we want, but it's something. It's like $600. So, like often the case, there may be a compromise out there. But for us at AARP, we're asking for up to $1,500. So that's the caregiver tax credit. And as I say, caregivers, God love them. I mean, they do incredible work. And they're not getting the tax credit now, so they're not doing it for that. But we hope that if we can get a little money in their pocket, that'll make it a little easier for them to keep doing it.
It's stressful.
Well, it's interesting. I think a lot. My wife, for example, was a caregiver for her 90-year-old parents for several years, and they stayed at home as long as possible. But she'd drive. It would be a 6-hour. She'd drive, and it'd be 6 hours of a day.
Wow.
Several days a week. In some cases, toward the end, it was every day. And there's a physical impact on the caregiver's life. There's an emotional impact. You're looking at your parent. You're seeing them, slowly, physically, maybe even Alzheimer's, dementia issues. So there's a lot going on, and we give them due credit. And we also respect what they're doing. But as I said to introduce the subject, part of the message is, but for them, the taxpayers would be paying a lot more money if they just went to a nursing home. And we don't want that. People really don't want to go to a nursing home if they can avoid it. We got to talk about nursing home. How are we doing on time?
We've got about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
This is wonderful.
You wind me up, I'll keep talking.
I know that's great.
Well, God love you. I hope you don't mind me.
Oh, I really do. Okay. That's why you're here.
All right, well, then we talked off camera about what else should we talk about. I want to talk about nursing homes.
Nursing homes, of course.
So here's the thing. We have gone through hell and back with the pandemic when it comes to the number of people who died in nursing homes. Yes. We think about those veterans in Holyoke Soldiers Home, Chelsea as well. But certainly there were thousands of people who died in nursing homes, because the nursing homes were not ready for this pandemic. They did not have the right protection, equipment. They were not doing good sanitary practice, at least to the extent of avoiding this. There were, and there still are, personnel limitations in terms of the number of staff. There are still. I mean, there are some nursing homes that have 3 people in a room. I mean, where's the privacy in that? It's not dignified. It's a concern.
It really
is. So AARP has been fighting very hard, along with a lot of other groups, the Alzheimer's Association, our friends in the Mass Senior Action Council, Mass Councils on Aging, Mass Home Care. We're all talking about the fact that we need to learn lessons, and we have to deal with changing. I call it transformational change. We have got to be sure that nursing homes are, first of all, operating properly. That we want to see them move towards 1 person per room is the ideal.
That would be wonderful,
yes. And we want the right equipment. We want the right training. We want the right supports. We know it costs money, but honestly, part of the challenge right now is that there are investment companies that are swooping in from other parts of the country. They see this as a cash cow, and frankly, you know, the ones who are doing really well by their residents, we give them credit for that. At AARP, we're not against nursing homes, but we want nursing homes to be the last resort for people who have absolutely no way of staying safely at home. And there are folks who are in that position where it's a benefit and a blessing for the family too to have a quality nursing home experience. But we've got to weed out the bad actors, and we've got to be transparent about it. The nursing homes, remember, one of the other problems was at the beginning, the residents and the families of the residents weren't even being told who had infections, what was going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So it was scary. And what we are fighting for, which is really the point I want to make, currently in the legislature, there is a comprehensive bill to reform nursing homes, long-term care. And the good news is the Joint Committee on Elder Affairs has favorably passed the bill. The other good news is the Speaker of the House has signaled it's a priority for him. And Karen Spilker, as we know from this Metro West area, is a very compassionate, very thoughtful person. Mm-hmm. And we're hopeful that she will, and we believe she is, supporting a version of the bill. So we want to see it pass this year. And we've been lobbying in support of that change so that when the next pandemic comes, we are ready, and the nursing homes are ready, and the ones that are bad actors are gone. We're not going to reimburse them for providing low standards of care, and we are going to insist when we give, and the legislature's done a good job, when it comes to giving more money to nursing homes, we don't begrudge that, but we want that money primarily to go to the workers, not the investors. We want them to go because they're doing God's work, and they're doing very hard work. True. And they're doing that work with less pay than, frankly, the value of what they do. So at AARP, we're talking about the value of that and worker training programs to increase the quality.
35 seconds.
Oh my God!
What
So
can
that's
you
it.
Say?
I want to say thank you for inviting me here.
Are you kidding?
Love this.
We love having you.
Well, it's my job to spread the word about what AARP is doing. You've done a nice job hosting, and you've been very patient. You've kind of let me go, as you have done in the past. I hope we've covered stuff that matters to your listeners.
You have, really. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
All right, you take care. Thank you.